All right, go ahead now. Hey, and we are back, ladies. Week 8, that's what she said. How are my ladies feeling? We're good? All right, I'm good. Let's, we're trying something different. I got a lot of stimulation in front of me with a lot of different screens, but we are live not only on YouTube, but we are also live on Instagram, on my Instagram, on the That's What She Said Instagram, on Patty's Instagram, on Nasima's Instagram. So if you are just seeing this for the first time, go ahead and drop some flames in the chats, any of them, all of them. We want to see your comments. And if you are on Instagram and you want to pop over to YouTube, the link is in my bio. So thank you guys for being here. Let's get into today's show. My name is Kaylani Blackwell. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Women in Real Estate, a national organization designed to empower women and minorities by giving them access to education, resources, support while they build wealth for themselves and their families. I'm super excited to be here today. Let's get into it. Patty Goodspeed.
Let's do it. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Patty Goodspeed. I am a mortgage banker. I have been for 21 years. I'm excited to be here. And so among other things, I am a mother, I'm an investor, and I am a strong advocate. I've been working for 21 years to lower the barrier of entry to home ownership. So I'm excited to be here with my girls.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Lady Jade. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. I am a media personality for over 20 years. I'm a real estate investor, a philanthropist, and excited to be here today.
What's up, everybody? I'm Nasima, straight out of West Oakland, labor and delivery nurse, personal finance enthusiast, normalizing Black wealth on a day-to-day basis. Excited to be with you ladies. Yes.
Excited to be with you too. All right, ladies, let's dive in because we got a lot on the docket for today. A lot going on in the world today. So first things first, I was on a call earlier today with my Wire members, and they are avid listeners and an avid audience for this show. And they said, oh my gosh, we got Patty's email yesterday or on Tuesday. Yeah, yesterday. And it said inflation is up. What the heck is going on? So Patty, can you give us a quick market update? And then I heard there was something about capital gains tax circulating today. I just can't keep up.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, it is an election year, so there is a lot going on. And I appreciate that, that there's feedback coming in from the emails. I just want to make a quick note about that because the community of people that do follow us and listen are also very much interested in growing their businesses as a result of that newsletter that really Kalani put her foot on my neck and made me create. I got like 3 new escrows this week from people that have been following along. So sometimes what happens is you're going to get people that you initiate a conversation with today and it doesn't turn into anything for 2 months, 2 weeks, maybe 2 years, but stay in front of them and keep those going. So just remember all the little things you're doing are adding up. And that is the benefit of compounding interest, right? In life and everything. So we talk about that a lot. So inflation is up. Inflation has been up. All the reports for the last 3 months have been indicating that inflation is back on the rise. And just as a reminder to our listeners that you guys have to remember that when inflation, the reason why you're seeing changes to mortgage rates, which impact a lot of people because it impacts demand. It also impacts supply because there's a lot of people waiting for rates to go down to sell. So you have to remember that the market is responding to what they think the Fed is not going to do. So when the probability of a rate cut in March was at 90%, mortgage rates were down to the mid to low sixes. And now that the probability of a rate cut in September is not even at 50%, you see mortgage rates going back up and the possibility of that. And the conversation is there a potential for another hike on the table? Will interest rates go back over 8%? And all of these questions are circulating around these inflation reports. Another key element to what the Fed is looking at and looking at, very specifically, is the job report, right? So you're seeing for the last 3 months, December, January, February, March, you're seeing job openings rise. That means new jobs, over 300,000 jobs a month that are coming onto the market. And I know people don't think about employment as an element of inflation, but it is. That's inflationary. That's putting pressure. Why? Because if you are a business owner, you know that you're not hiring anyone or putting out an opportunity to hire people if you're not making money. That means in a high interest rate environment with less access to money and access to money at a higher cost, your business is still growing. Now, there's a lot of scrutiny and there's a lot of criticism coming out against those reports. And if you've been on my webinar, you read my newsletter, you know that I've been calling that out for a long time. So you will see that the numbers are might be a little, rigged because they're constantly being readjusted and heading downward. So what does that mean for inflation? It means that as long as there are more jobs coming on the market and people are spending money, prices of goods and services go up because the demand cannot keep up. The demand is outpacing the supply. The price of anything goes up when more people want it than the quantity of what that item is that's available, whether it's a product or service. So those are basic fundamentals. Also in the webinar series and on the newsletters, we have highlighted the basic understanding that you need to have when you're looking at how to make decisions on where price is headed is basic supply and demand. Okay. So you're going to see inflation, a big report come out Friday. So you want to stay tuned on my Instagram. If you want to get those updates in real time, I send them out early in the morning. I'm an early bird.
I think she paused. Yep, she froze. Yeah.
She froze on us. That's okay.
Okay, so while we're waiting on her to come back, I mean, just to kind of break it down a little bit more, I guess, I don't know if you guys will be able to answer this question. How the heck are people going to afford to live? Life is already expensive. I mean, like, let's just talk about what the real is. Like, I just don't and then we're talking about election season coming up. Obviously, this is something under the Biden administration. We already know what the election is going to look like. So it kind of sucks in a way because we're limited on who we can choose to put in office. But obviously, I hate to say it, this administration has not done a great job for the everyday consumer, right? So, I mean,
also, I think you need to think about politics and administration. And as much as we can blame this administration, which I'm not a political person, even though I have a whole political public policy degree. But every administration.
How'd that happen? I got a whole public policy degree.
I had to laugh. I'm like, it's all right, girl. I got a PR degree and I can't write a press release to save my life. It's all good. It happens.
But we're trying, there's a lag between administrations. So each administration is always cleaning up after the past administration, so on and so forth. But that's neither here nor there. We're not in a great place financially as an economy, even though we're fueling all these wars and all this kind of stuff. But that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. But I think what people tend to do in these situations, especially in our consumerist society, is not think about, these are hard times. Let me cut back. Let me think about what my essential spends are and just focus on those things. What we do is we just start to accumulate debt. And so people kind of put blinders on and then go into situations where, they just put things on credit cards, borrow from their retirement accounts, like we've talked about before. And if that is the case for you, I want you to just take a moment and actually understand the long-term consequences of that. And most of the time, we don't even know what we're spending on. So if you find that's your situation, and I'm not talking about for essential things, obviously, there are a lot of people just struggling for day-to-day survival. But what we see and what we have talked about is just an urge to keep on being a consumer and buy things off of TikTok Shop and the $5 section in Target and all of these things, if we can really just be intentional about our spending and just focus on the things that are essential and just understand that this is a temporary season, then we can be in a much better financially healthy situation for the long term. So think about your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like it's not temporary though, because I feel like the inflation has been inflating for a very long time now.
But everything is cyclical. Yeah.
That's kind of my question though, Patty, and you had just frozen for a quick second. You weren't gone long, but the question really for me is if we're going, slow and steady, right? There haven't been any rate cuts, haven't been any rate hikes. But the minute that the Fed stopped hiking rates, inflation started to go back up, in spite of the progress that we've made getting that core inflation rate down. So, at how long and how steady do we go until the government has to be hawkish again?
Well, I think that's a great question, but I want to correct one thing that you said. The Fed stopped cutting rates in the summer of last year, and inflation didn't start picking up again until the January, February, and March reports. So it wasn't an instant effect. And it actually, you could argue that it wasn't necessarily the rate hikes that drove inflation down, because you're going to see that does happen, but it takes time. And I think that's what the Federal Reserve has reiterated over and over again. It takes time to see the impact, which is why they stopped hiking the rates. Now, when they stopped hiking the rates, that's when the market said, oh, okay, interest rates can drop now. Mortgage-backed securities can drop now. We're going to start to see this turning around. So bond investors feel more confident and spend more money driving bond prices up and mortgage rates down. So specifically in regards to inflation, the problem is that when you're looking at a report today, it's not measuring the rate of inflation is not measuring the difference in it's taking what's let's say we're in the week of, it's April 24th. So it's looking at April's information from April 20th, it's the same time exactly 1 year ago, and it's measuring the rate of change in that. So what's happening is the price is going down, the rate of that change is slowing down, and therefore that means, hey, this is a marker, this is an indicator that inflation is going back up. The prices, that means that instead of heading downwards, we're seeing this turn around, and that's not necessarily what we're looking for. So right now, again, the market reactions and interest rates going up is all about investor confidence in what happens with the basic fundamentals of supply and demand, because investors' demand changes when they're concerned about whether or not the Federal Reserve will hike rates again. So what Kelani means when she's asking about a hawkish standpoint is, are they going to go back to saying, hey, we're going to need to hike rates again? And if we have to hike rates again, what is that going to do to the market? Because we need to get inflation under control. Now, Jerome Powell did confirm that hiking is not on the table. And if he had not said that, then these inflation reports would have a much more significant impact on rates. So what you have to think about, and why we're going to bring up this, what the Biden administration is proposing for taxes on unrealized gains, we're going to talk about that because it's a big factor. See, the reason why the government wants to increase tax revenue is because they spend money and they print money out of thin air. So money during COVID, $5 trillion was printed out of thin air. When you hear any verbiage in the headlines about the Federal Reserve shrinking their balance sheet, that means they've retracted, let's say to keep it as simple as possible, about $1.5 trillion of that money, okay? Now, to give you an idea, if I took a money printer and I just injected $1 million into each one of your bank accounts, what would you do? Just think about what you would do. It's going to send you into a spending spree, regardless of what you're going to say in public. I know you're going to be out there spending some of that money on things you wish you had that you didn't buy.
Never.
So if you put $5 trillion into the market out of nowhere into the economy, what do you think happens? It grows. So the inflation rate went up to 9.1%, and right now the average inflation is, closer to 3%. So here's what we're talking about. The government has to figure out a way to increase their revenue. So if you go out and you get a car note and you got a mortgage and you got new credit card bills and you're like, oh shit, I just lost my part-time job, you're going to have to go out and figure out another replacement for that income because your expenses are still there, and if not growing because of the interest rate environment, correct? So
Right.
the government has the same problem on their hands. They just approved sending $61 billion to Ukraine. God knows why. And they have approved another $26 billion to go to Israel. And we are out here, our hard-earned tax dollars are funding wars, fake wars, made up wars, just entertaining wars that are happening out there that are killing massive amounts of people. And then what happens is we're paying the price on that because our taxes are going to go up, and that's how they're spending their money. Because I can tell you one thing, there's not a single mother in the audience that wouldn't be raising their hand right now wishing that they had after school programs with credible healthcare workers or professionals that could care for children, enabling much more time and energy, just like they have in other countries. Or maybe healthcare programs, education programs. Why are we paying so much money for education and college education in this country, right? So there could be a lot of things that our tax dollars do, with our tax dollars are put to use for. A lot of things that maybe we'd see the benefit of in our lives, but that's not happening. Now, as that balance grows and as the government continues to print money out of thin air, they got to pay for that, right? Just because they create it out of thin air doesn't mean that they're going to pay for it out of thin air. They're going to take our hard-earned money to pay for it through taxes. So the Biden administration is proposing that 44.6% of unrealized gains are going to be taxed for people in certain brackets, right? This is a major problem. So let's talk about that.
We have to define that. Let's define.
No,
so in case people are unclear, what are unrealized gains?
Unrealized gains means that everyone here can understand from just the lens of home ownership. So let's say that you have $100,000 of equity in your property, and when you went to go file taxes, you would have to pay taxes on the equity sitting in your house that you have not cashed out on. You didn't take a loan against, you didn't borrow against, you didn't sell the property. So if you buy a stock for $1 and that stock goes up to $2, they're proposing a tax on the unrealized gains. Realized gains is when you sell and you deposit that profit into your bank account. Unrealized gains is when it's just sitting there. So imagine the wealth that exists in this country and that money's just sitting there. They want to tap into that so that they can pay the bills that they're creating with the money that they're printing out of thin air. The number one cause of inflation in the United States of America is government spending. So if you're not paying attention to how your government is spending while you're casting your vote, I would like to ask that you should.
Okay. Go ahead, Jade.
No, I was just saying that, which is the reason why we were talking, I guess, when you froze a little bit about, the current administration and how it's interesting because we're coming into election season coming up in just a few months. And I feel like obviously our choices are very limited, as they always are. But you're right. We do have to look at the bigger picture. We have to stop voting for, and I'm not telling anybody to vote either way, but I think that we have been conditioned to vote party as opposed to voting what are the policies, policies over party, right? And so but that takes us doing research or listening to somebody like you, Patty, that knows how to break these things down for us to really truly understand policy. Because somebody like me, like Nasima, that I'm not into politics, I don't always understand the policy, right? Until moments like this. So
well, I would like to add just a quick note on that, Jay, because I think you would understand this better than most. So you remember that there was a controversy not too long ago with the NFL, and then a lot of people took a big problem with Jay-Z stepping in, kind of stepping on Kaepernick's toes and making a deal with the NFL. A lot of people were mad about that. And I'm going to put aside the fact that I'm a Jay-Z stan when I say this, okay? Jay-Z has an unbelievable understanding of what the power of economics can do. Yeah. I think people need to start understanding that you vote with your dollars. And I highlighted that example because it pissed people off. And sometimes you need to get mad to open your eyes. You might get mad and get your vision blurred just a tad bit before you can open your eyes and see the truth. As a demographic, whether you are Middle Eastern like me, or whether you're Black like the other ladies on here, or maybe Asian or Pacific Islander or whatever else you might be, right? You are targeted based on areas of your life that would trigger you emotionally so that there would be some sort of response. We have to be able to, just like I always say, the fundamentals of making decisions that can separate you from emotion is math. You guys have to understand that without economics, you don't have any power, A, for survival, and B, for all the other things. So as communities coming together with economic power, we need to ask ourselves why the Asian community has surpassed Black and white communities in terms of wealth when we want to talk about generational wealth. We need to talk about the fact that we're out here talking about generational wealth, and that taxes on unrealized gains strips that, because it could essentially be a tax that is implemented upon death when the wealth is transferred to the next person, and there are not enough entities under the law that can protect you from that. So we have to get smarter about economics, right? So we do have to understand that you vote with your dollars. I am not a political person, and I'm not endorsing either party. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a CPA, but I want you to understand the math before you make decisions, because future generations depend on it. That's that.
Okay, and we'll just go ahead and just drop that mic
mic
right there.
Yep,
Drop mic.
drops the mic.
Nasima, you're reacting to what she is saying. What are you thinking right now?
Oh, so many thoughts. I mean, all of it is 100% correct. And that's why I teach financial empowerment, because the only way you can truly make change is to hit people in their pockets, or have the ability to pad your pockets when something is awry, right?
Mhm.
And it's just like, I like to tell people, like, your dollar is going to drive your life, right? And what matters to you is going to be dependent on your financial stability. And if you're always in a financially unstable place, then you're always in survival mode, and you're not going to be able to be in a position to make better decisions that are going to impact you in the long term. And I think that a lot of us are still in a position where we're scrambling just to make ends meet, and we can't even look at the bigger picture, because it's all about being in survival mode. And so I'm just like listening to everything Patty says, and it's a big leap to be able to make moves like Jay-Z from a financial standpoint. However, a lot of people don't understand the powers that they have at the local levels to be able to impact change. And I think by empowering people to understand that they need to be able to vote for their district attorneys, they need to be able to vote for their judges, their local officials, and the impacts that those votes have are some things that you can do, even if you don't have the economic wherewithal of a Jay-Z. So there's levels. And I think that, so many people are just in survival mode. They can't even think past what they can do to survive day to day. So I think it's so good to highlight these things, Patty, because it's hard to shift your thinking into these concepts, because, where a lot of people right now are just literally in survival mode.
Yeah,
that's an
one of the things that has helped or encouraged me to become more educated in this area, which I'm still absorbing, right? I can't even begin to speak about this with the same level of insight that Patty has. That's why I just ask her when I need to know. But, one of the things that has helped me is becoming a business owner myself. Right? You're impacted differently when you're not just an employee. And so I think that, I know I don't want to spend too much more time here. I know we need to transition, because one thing we need to talk about is tax season. And I was talking to one of my friends earlier, and he was like, I'm on an extension. And I'm like, me too. So let's talk a little bit about tax season. And Nasima, I'm going to quarterback this to you, because I think you've got some better insight here. You're still, I know what you said, but we're going to hear you drop the mic too, but you are making W-2 income and 1099 income. So talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on tax season. And then obviously, I don't know what y'all doing with these tax refunds, but we need to probably talk about that too. I don't know. I haven't gotten a refund in years.
Okay, well, let's start by just being transparent. And first of all, I'm still paying for my 2022 taxes because in 2023, when that tax bill hit, I was firmly on maternity leave and was not about to pay the 5 figures that came across my dashboard. Okay. So let's be transparent about that. And I think that in 2023, for those 2022 taxes, is the first time that people really saw those impacts. Like most people I know owed a significant amount of money, and that includes my stepmom and dad, who my stepmom works like a very minimal wage job just to not be bored, and my dad is retired, had to pay a significant amount of taxes. And I've seen that amongst my peers, my friend groups, and online. And so we're now already, wrapping up the 2023 tax season. And yes, we are out here filing extensions because a lot of people are trying to play catch up. But this is, again, one of those shifts that we're seeing as a catch up to in the later part of the administration, right? Of some changes that have happened economically. But okay, now we all know we all owe. We all filed extensions because we're behind. But I think overall, we need to have a better understanding of taxation and how taxes work and get ahead of taxes. I am not a tax professional. That's why I'm like, ooh, I don't want to talk about it because I hire somebody to handle that for me. I hire somebody to assess my income and my spending and tell me how much to put away and how to plan for my taxes. Because right now, as much as I don't want to pay any taxes and I think it's unfair and I don't like where my tax money is going, at the end of the day, I don't mess around with the KBG. I mean, the IRS. And I don't want to be in jail or,
There's some goons.
No, seriously.
Listen, I'm going to pay my taxes. And so I just make sure that I work with someone who understands my financial situation, understands what my financial goals are, and I pay a good amount of money for her to take care of that for me.
So I wanted to jump in on this really fast because I agree with you, Nasima. Here's the thing. I just recently joined, made an investment to be a part of a mastermind group that teaches tax code, right? Not that I want to learn it myself. This is the first time in my life I have actually invested this amount of money into a mastermind. But I felt like if I want to go to another level, I have to be willing to do things that I've never done before. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned hiring a tax professional. And for the first time in my life, at my big age, I am learning that there's a difference between a CPA and a tax planner, right? Mm-hmm. And that is something that we're not privy to. Like if you've most often, if you've just been a W-2 employee, you just file however you file. But when you start to diversify your portfolio with real estate, now you're 1099, all these other things, you literally need someone on your team that understands how to leverage the tax code. Mm-hmm. I do not have the capability to sit and read this book. But there are ways and there are strategies that we do not know and do not understand where you don't have to pay this big tax bill, right? You should have somebody on your team that will tell you, look, you're about to get hit pretty hard. You probably need to spend some money in order to avoid this large tax bill that you're on your way to getting. But it does take planning, and it is going to take you, you're going to have to invest in yourself. It is not cheap, but it is worth it at the end of the day. I'd rather be giving a tax planner my money to save me on taxes than for me to be writing this big check to the IRS, because the problem is we work really, really hard for our money. And then there's this huge chunk of it we work hard just to give it back. And that is only because we do not understand the tax code. So I would highly recommend. I had a CPA that worked, that was, doing my taxes for many, many years. And I think that at a certain point, he was doing a really great job. Some people on the outside, when I started investing into real estate, were making other suggestions. I would take it to my CPA. He would be like, no, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Oh, but I did. Right. And so what I was upset with him for many years, thinking, you jacked me up. Like, I listened to you. But it wasn't his fault. It was my fault because I didn't have the right person in place. He did what he knew he could do. You know what I'm saying? Like he could only go so far. And so now I've chosen to work with other people that understand this like back and forth. So I just want to put that out there because again, I just was not knowledgeable that there was a difference. I thought tax people were tax people and that was that. And yeah, nah, it ain't.
No, there's levels to that too. And the planning starts from almost the beginning, like the conception of something, right? What type of entity, shout out to our tax strategist and tax planner, Larry D. West, with PBS Strategies, but he helped us form our companies from the beginning. This is the entity that you need. This is the right entity structuring. This is a holding company. This is a parent company. This owns other companies. This is its function. This is how you transfer money between these companies, right? To make the bookkeeping so much easier, to protect your assets, to limit your exposure and your liability, all of those things. Now, I'm not a tax professional. Do not take this as tax advice. Go talk to an attorney. But if you've heard anything from all four of us on this stage, it's that we have hired help and hired people to do it. And if you haven't yet, it's one of those things. I feel like taxes is almost like one of those things where it's like when people don't want to go look at their credit. Like, man, I know I haven't looked in a minute. I don't even know what's up under here, right? I don't even want to. I know that the car is smoking a little bit. I know I need to give it some attention. I know I need to do something here. But you're really scared to lift up the hood of that car because you don't know what you're gonna find. You don't know if it's a quick, easy fix. Let me pour in some oil. If I need to replace my whole transmission, right? So it's one of those things though that when you don't avoid it. Don't avoid it. Hire people to help you so it doesn't have to be your headache. And everything is almost like go backable. I don't know. Anything that you think that you've messed up, anything that you've calculated wrong, anything that you get help with from here moving forward. I mean, your tax professionals can go back and fix just about anything. So go get the help.
I think it's up to 3 years. I think it's up to 3 years that they can go back. I don't quote me on that, but I think it's up to 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are also like hyper worried about audits, but it's important to remember that the IRS is understaffed significantly. So the fear of an audit should be less of a concern for you if you are worried about implementing tax strategies that maybe fundamentally feel uncomfortable for you, right? Because there are actually a lot of people out there that just believe you do whatever the government says, and then they would never even know to join a mastermind that says, here's a taxation code and here's how you can benefit from it. The only thing I wanted to add to that, which was you guys did brilliant on that, was just for any wage earners, because we're talking a lot from the lens of maybe creators and business folks pulling in money. And there's lots of opportunity for tax savings there. But for wage earners have whatever tax bracket that you're in automatically deducted. And you're probably seeing less and less of that money coming back to you at the end of the year. So if you're a wage earner, there are things obviously like marriage, children, interest payments on debt that can be beneficial to you. And then you'll also, if you are earning wages and you're thinking about building a real estate portfolio or opening up a business, the question you want to ask your CPA is, do passive losses help me reduce my tax liability on active income? If you're going out and you're clocking in and out and you're collecting a check, that's active income. And then there's passive income, right? That you're not clocking in and out for, that's investment money. There's different categories. So you can find out if setting up an entity or finally starting that business you were dreaming about, even though it might cost you more money in the first couple of years, would that lower your tax liability? So ask them that. Do I have any opportunity to have passive losses help me with my tax liability on active income? So I just wanted to put that out there for any wage earners.
That's good. I like that.
So real quick, can we address one of the comments real fast? I hope I don't mispronounce your name. It's maybe Ashley Lee. She says she's afraid to choose the wrong person that won't scam you. This is when it's important to ask. I mean, that's what I would do, is literally ask around, because if somebody can't co-sign the person that you're gonna be working with, it's kind of difficult. Just keep asking. That's what I kept doing. I kept putting it out there and being like, hey, I need to find somebody to put on my team that helps me to keep money like some of these big wigs, like, and where I don't have to pay taxes and this and that or whatever. Just keep asking. Referrals are absolutely 100% by people that you trust. That's the way that I would go. And Kaylani just mentioned somebody.
There are different people who are going to help you, just like you said. Like, there were limitations to where your CPA could go. There's limitations to like people who do tax planning, for people who plan to retire early. You have to look at things differently. So the number one, there's hella scammers out there. So if you're on
Especially if you're in Atlanta.
Instagram, yes, Scam City. If you're on Instagram and you're on TikTok, and what people are saying is, too true. I mean, what you know what I'm talking about. If what they're
Too good to
saying
be
is
true.
like exactly too good to be true, then it probably is. And you need to actually investigate people's actual credentials, do a little Googling, a little research, and then go into like the referrals, like who have you actually worked with? What kind of person is this? Does this person have a similar entity set up, or are they W-2 employees? Like, you need to be able to ask those questions before you can trust somebody. Don't blindly think that somebody is going to be able to save you money because they said on TikTok that they were able to avoid paying taxes for all of these years. And I think just like with anything in finance, people always look for quick wins, but those quick wins typically have long-term very detrimental consequences. So, in those kind of situations, do your due diligence and move slow before making the decision about giving somebody access to your money in that kind of way, or your long-term financial information.
Period. Okay. That's good. That's good. Let's keep it moving, ladies, because I know we're doing a lot today. I don't know how I keep quarterbacking these. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to
Go
keep us
for it.
moving.
You're good.
But Patty, you mentioned something in a text message. You tweeted something. I might have to pull it up. But money is a form of currency. We know, as is energy. Energy is a form of currency. And I gotta find the tweet from you. Man, I should have had it up on time. But what did you want to get at with that point today?
Well, basically, we're as we were talking about money and talking about, everything that we're doing, we talk a lot to our communities and our audience about how to invest or what to buy. And we forgot to mention, if you're getting a tax return this year, if you're in debt, pay down the debt. If you're not in debt, buy a house, right? So let's focus on that. Homeownership is becoming a luxury. If you have any questions on that, you can message me. But I wanted to talk about energy because money is energy, right? And we are a lot of times, and when there's a lot of uncertainty, there is this overwhelming feeling, almost like a brick on your chest, that really keeps you from doing things. Fear is very debilitating. Uncertainty, doubt is very debilitating. And what sparked the thought was, I opened up my socials and every time I open up my Instagram, I just have a beautiful message from somebody, right? Instagram, Twitter, wherever. I just get every day. And I thought to myself, Lord, what am I doing that is creating this reflection in the universe for me, right? And I felt like, wow, this is an exchange. It's the same way when I sit and concentrate and meditate and I do what I need to do and I get a referral from somewhere. And let's talk about social media. I mean, in the last month or so, I've gotten about $15 million worth of referrals just from social media. And as you can see, I'm not extremely intentional on the internet with that. I mean, I am intentional. I shouldn't say I'm not. But I mean, I don't create content that talks about mortgage banking because that's what I love to do. I put a flower on my bedside and I walked out to my backyard and I saw a rose and I was like, oh my God, the bush gave me a rose. And I was so happy. Like, I wish you could have seen how happy I was. And I brought that in my house and I just thought about my energy, how I deliver that energy, how that energy is being reciprocated. And I thought about us and I thought about our community. And I just thought about how important it is to clean that energy and realizing how beautiful it is when you're operating in a state of abundance. We always call it a state of abundance, but we don't talk about the details. We don't talk about how if you walked into your backyard and you saw a budding rose and you just lose your shit because you're so excited that this dirt and water and sunlight gave you a fruit. And the way that we walk around with gratitude for the very little things, the way people show up, there are a lot of people that come on social media every day. Oh man, these people that do this and those people that do that, and I can't stand this and I can't stand that. Baby, that's why you're getting that energy back. If you're scrolling and something is making you unhappy, log out. Like, log out. It's not that serious. Log out. Because every time I'm scrolling, I'm like, damn, look at her. She's winning. I'm so excited for her. Wow, she's so pretty. Damn, I need to stop eating carbs. You know, like, I'm like, you know, I'm having a very positive experience with social media. And I thought it was worth talking about because that energy does come back to you, you know, like, you know how you walk into a room and a baby makes eye contact with you and smiles, like, you know, that feeling, that is a very priceless feeling. And sometimes you walk away like, okay, God, I'm doing something right. And if you think about those very little subtle experiences you have as you're walking through life simply, and then you realize what that's a reflection of who you are and the energy you're emitting. Now think about that in terms of your goals. We talked about how important it was to write those things down. We talked about how I don't think you guys realize how valuable this practice is. There was a book and a movie that became very popular a while back called The Secret. It was like everyone in business was talking about it, right? And there's one thing I recall from that a book in that series that really stood with me. One phrase: checks in the mail. Checks in the mail, because that person just kept saying checks in the mail, checks in the mail. And all these random checks started showing up in the mail. Now, if you've never played with your own ability to manifest things into your life, to give a certain energy and understand that that's a reciprocal force, then you might not believe what I'm saying or know what I'm talking about. And it's not for you. You could just keep scrolling, right? But for those that hear me, who really know that feeling, what happens when that baby makes eye contact with you and you feel like God just touched your heart, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And those checks will continue to come in the mail. I would love for us to take the next 7 days until we meet again to do some accounting with our energy and purify a few things. Let some things go. If it frustrates you, walk away from it. Go hug a tree, step on grass, go smell a rose, you know, hug, you know, make some eye contact. So that's what I wanted to bring to the table and let you ladies talk about your testimonies with energy.
I love that. I agree wholeheartedly. The power of life and death is in the tongue, right? And so often we're conditioned to speak on the negativity in our lives, and life is reciprocal. What you put out is what you will get in return. So I love the fact that you brought that up. You know what I mean? And let's be clear. We only think that we're in control of things, right? We're not in control of anything. So if our heart and the purity of our heart is being measured, or the lack of purity of our heart is being measured every single day, like you said, if we're putting out negative energy, it doesn't matter how much we try to fake it in front of other people. At a certain point, we're going to get back what we have put out. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that sometimes we feel like we can live these secret lives or live these secret negative lives, and that everything's going to be all good. Nah, I don't quite work like that. And so for you, Patty, you do put good energy out, right? And so God measures your heart, and he says, you know what, my good and faithful servant, I will reward you.
Amen.
And that is why we sit here every day. And like I've talked to you about, I've mentioned before about, you know, life is a constant faith battle for most of us, right? Especially for me. It's like, I go a couple of days and my faith is like on 100, and then I'm like doubting again, right? And then God will show up the most inopportune times just to say, hey, I still got you. That's what checks in the mail is. Checks in the mail, checks in the mail. You're literally speaking out loud exactly what it is that you want, and that what you speak eventually becomes a belief, right? Mm-hmm. And so you shall have what you're believing in. If you're believing for that, it will come. So I'm so glad that that's such a great reminder, honestly, because you know, we have a tendency to focus on the things that are not going right. We're not focusing on the rose in the garden, the rose bush. We're not focusing on the beauty of the grass in our toes. We're focusing on the fact that, dang, I got to go put some gas in my car and gas is expensive. Or dang, I got to take this meeting. I got to this, I got to that. And I love the fact that you got your $15 million deals from Instagram. And guess when they came? You were asleep. But God is even watching your heart while you're asleep, Patty. Yeah. And he knows that not only do you deserve it, but that when you get that blessing, he can trust you with that blessing. Right. And so he will continue to pour that into you, into all of us. Right. Because if we can be trusted with what he's given us, and you do, like you're just such a freaking positive person from the moment that I met you, honestly. And it's very rare in life that you meet girls, right? And I
real
just
girls.
Yeah, no,
real
like
ones.
real, and that's how I feel about everybody on here. Like a lot of people don't know, like I didn't really know anybody before I got on here, right? So there's this nervousness of like, oh Lord, we about to get on here with a bunch of women. What is this going to be like? But to meet literally a group of girls at this point in my life is like, wow, God, you knew what I needed when I needed it. Right. And
Yeah.
that's that thing. So thank you for that reminder. Thank you for speaking on that. Thank you for being that light, and may God continue to bless you and everybody else on here and everybody that's watching. Just remember, like, life is unlimited for us. Like, we put our own limits on ourselves. So if we want great, we got to be willing to put out great. I can't ask for a fire if I'm not being willing to put the wood in first. So put the great out, and then watch the great come back and return. So I love that. Thank you, Patty.
Amen. Thank you. You just touched my heart so deeply. Thank you.
Well, I saw this TikTok the other day. I reposted it, and I'm really going to just take this creator's words. I cannot remember her name, but she literally said, you cannot be a hater and be doing well in life. You just can't. Because she said, because if I'm doing well in life and I'm on a boat in the middle of the Riviera, I don't have service or signal to be dropping hate comments on your content.
Did Morgan say that?
Was it Morgan? I gotta look it up.
Oh, Morgan might.
It might have been. Hold on, I'll tell you. But I mean, it was one of the best TikToks I've seen in a minute, and she made such a good point, right? So I mean, this is all great, and this is not rhetoric, right? This is not us just singing the happy dance and saying, "Oh, be positive things." There's actually science, right? First of all of what I need is located in the Bible. But in case that's not enough, I watched a YouTube video that a friend of mine sent me probably a couple months ago, and it talked about the literal shape of sound waves, and that they're spherical. They're not the line wave that we think of or that have always been visually represented for us, and that they're actually spherical and they hold energy, right? It's science. And based on what you say can literally create energy, a sphere of energy that interacts with the world. It's not saying negative things that just go nowhere. Your words don't go nowhere. They go somewhere. And so you have to be very, very cognizant of the things that you say, because that you really will create your reality. I could run out of gas on the side of the highway, and how I deal with that or how I interpret that could be very different than how Patty or how Jade or Nasima interpret that. It could be the end of the world. I can get out, I can kick the tire, I could be pissed off, or I can say, wow, thanks God for saving me from getting into the accident that I might have gotten in, or whatever, right? I could, right. the world, the way that you look at the world and you frame things is crucial, because if everything is of detriment to you, then you're going to always be in this negative state. And then the last thing I'm going to say about this is that, and I don't want to lose my train of thought. I talk too much, but when we are, I do it to myself every single time, but when we are, taking on the burdens of the negativity, we are not operating with the amount of faith that we are supposed to, right? Yeah. If everything is worked out, if everything is working together for good for those that believe in the Lord, if we are truly operating in faith, I do not need to have fear in any capacity. Jesus slept in the boat that was rocking in a storm peacefully, and everyone woke him up, and he said, do you not have any faith? So I just want to put that little piece out there. If life is getting to you like that, we need to have a come to Jesus, and we got plenty of resources for that. Apostle Sean Mark is on this live right now. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and send him a message. He'll be there to pray with you. He does live prayer every week here on YouTube. But anyway, that's my take on the energy. So speaking of good energy, so did you want to say something else, Jade?
No, I was gonna say, speaking of good energy, Kaylani, you had some videos you wanted to share with us.
I wanted to show you guys.
I know we're almost limited on time. Yeah,
I know we only have a few more minutes, and instead of Jade's hot take, I had a little bit of I saw this today, and I had a little bit of a moment, and I wanted to share this beautiful moment that this woman put on TikTok. I do not know who this woman is. Her TikTok is not crazy popping. Her socials are not crazy popping. She's beautiful. But I'm going to show you guys this real quick. I want your guys' feedback and just reaction to this.
Okay, so select My Documents and scroll to exam results.
The caption says,
okay,
a formerly incarcerated single mom who passed the
got
bar
Carol,
early on the first try.
Mommy.
You got God. You got this.
She's logging in. She's figuring it out. She's reading.
I just like how supportive he is. Look at him. He's like, Lord, he's praying.
He is like holding his breath.
Mhm.
I passed.
Guys,
I passed. I passed. I passed. I passed. I passed.
congratulations. Congratulations. You did it. 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 You did
I
it.
knew I could do it. I passed. I passed. I passed.
Mm.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
so
Second
beautiful.
chances, boy. That's so awesome.
And the bar ain't no punk, let me tell you.
I know for
At
real.
all. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, that she passed the bar, formerly incarcerated single mother. Ma'am, I cried so much when you sent that over. That was so beautiful. So beautiful. She's
Yeah.
so deserving of that. There's not a single thing that you can go through that you can't get out of, that you can't grow from. Nothing.
At the
We
end
are
of the
without
day,
excuse.
it's all gonna be okay.
I'm glad
Mhm.
you mentioned that. And Kaylani mentioned it earlier. It's about life is about perspective. If I run right now and I get to this wall, somebody is going to tell me that I'm at a dead end. But then somebody else is going to tell me that I'm at a turning point. And so we have to remember whenever our back is against the wall, whenever we do hit what seems to be the end of the road or what society says is the end of the road, we're either going to treat it like it's a dead end or it's a turning point. So kudos to her for one, even having the strength. Because I'm sure so many people are like, are you crazy? Why would you even do that? Why would you even take the bar? Why would you even? Because you can. And again, we are our own limitations. You know what I mean? Like we say this thing about, oh, the glass ceiling. Yeah, but that's why we have to be careful about who we hang around, what we let in all of our gates. Our gates are our openings, like our eye openings, our ear openings. You get what I'm saying? Like, what are we listening to on a constant basis? This is why I think we do have a tendency to fall victim to a scarcity mindset or operating in fear, is because society accepts us more when we dim our light. It makes them feel more comfortable. You get what I'm saying? But when we can stand 10 toes down and we can say, nah, it's ugly right now. When we can stand 10 toes down and say, you know what, this may not look how I'm not going from A to B to C like I thought I was. And then when I can't, my girls are going to back me and say, number one, I need you to remember who you are and whose you are. So life is definitely about perspective. And I love that we can learn from anybody. And I mean, think about how many people probably wrote her off. You get locked up, people are like, well, that's it for you. You're going to have to be regular for the rest of your life. And she's like, watch, I'm not. So thank you so much for sharing it. That is that's awesome. And everybody that was surrounding her, that was on that computer screen with her, whether that was her son or her husband or whoever it was, like she was an example to them. And now an example for us. Like, how many of us had a crappy day today and was like, man, I'm just fixing to give up on this. And now you watch a video like that and you like, I ain't got no excuse anymore.
Right. The motivation is real. What I love about that, what that made me think and really feel like is, you're not defined by your past. You're not defined by your mistakes. You're not defined by any label that anybody, any box anybody tries to put you in. You're not defined by anything, right? That does not, none of those things determine your value today. And that's so important that I want people to know it's okay to be new again. It's okay to start at the beginning of something, right? That debt that Nassima talked about, she had to start somewhere. That $1 million didn't pay off itself, right? This company didn't get built by itself, right? We've been laying bricks to, old references to building these walls and these successes for a long time. And it hasn't always been pretty. It's okay to start over somewhere. It's okay to try and follow, what your purpose is. And when you do that, when you put yourself in space to push your limitations, push past the negative self-talk, push past things that you know, the mental limitations, you become a testimony for people to see and believe that they can do those things too, right? So it's okay to be new. And, you know, Jesus sacrificed. You don't have to take the cross off. Anyway,
that you need to highlight that comment right there. It's okay to be new again. Thank you, Kelani. Rosanna pointed that out. Yeah, that's a powerful statement. Thank you for saying that. That's beautiful. It is okay to be brand new. All things become new. You can be renewed. So that was beautiful. If we were together, I'd be like, let's hug.
Let's hug. Naseema, did you have anything that you wanted to add there?
No, it just made me think about just like going back to Patty's point about energy, and it's a daily practice, right? It's a daily thing that we have to remember. It's a discipline, right? Like look inward. Like when you feel like things are off, when you feel like things aren't happening the way that they're supposed to, stop, pause, do some reflection, sit within yourself, understand where you're not loving yourself the way that you should be loving yourself. And, you know, just take a pause to shift your own energy, and you'll start to notice that things shift around you. But it's something that we have to intentionally do. And so I love these reminders here. And I just want people to understand that they have so much power. They just have to remember that they have it and learn how to tap into it.
Beautiful. All right, ladies. That has been another That's What She Said Wednesday evening with my wonderful ladies. It's a warm and fuzzy day, and I really needed this today. So thank you guys. Every time we get on here, it's the end of the day. Y'all don't even see us backstage before the show turns on, but we're all like, yeah, how are you, girl? We good. Let's go ahead. Let's get this going. And then we get going, and we just feel so much better, right? After we have these conversations. So thank y'all for continuously lifting each other up. But it has been another day on That's What She Said. Let's do some outros and get up out of here. Naseema, let's start with you.
Start with Naseema. Go ahead.
Let's start right.
No, I just want you guys to remember to love yourself. Love yourselves first, and then everything else will fall into place. So wishing you the best.
I love that. All right. Well, I mean, what she said. I like that, Naseema. What you said. I love it.
Perfect. My outro is, if you're watching from the Bay Area, join us on June 6th in Oakland, California. Watch out. I'm going to be posting it. Lady Jade is coming into town. All of us are going to be together. We're going to have a fabulous game night. I had to get a bigger venue than my house. We're going to have a great time. I can't wait to see you guys. And there's going to be parts of me I'm not going to want to televise at that event. Okay. So you don't want to miss out. All right. I'll see you there.
Oh, Patty, what you saying? We locking the cameras out when they come in?
No, the cameras get locked. When Party Patty comes out, the cameras get locked up. Okay?
That's what we call her, Party Patty, for sure. Well, we cannot wait. June 6th, Oakland, California. Tap in with us, send a DM or comment. We'll be posting about it soon. But we have streamed on YouTube as well as on Instagram. So if this is your first time checking us out, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are here every Wednesday, same time, same place. I'm Kaylani. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you guys next week.